Hey guys, this is Malka. I have something really special for you today. This one happened 10 years ago on Al Jazeera. It's a debate, Yishai versus a Fatah official from Ramallah. And it feels like, okay, well, this is 10 years ago. Like, why am I watching something from 10 years ago? I don't have time for this. You will feel while you are watching this debate like you are watching something that could easily have been on TV last night. The same topics, the same concerns, the same anti-Israel rhetoric, and the same real-world answers that Yishai is offering that are like, that we should have learned from 10 years ago sound fresh today as Israel is trying to internalize the lessons that we are learning from October 7th. You have to watch this debate. I want you to know that I looked up the person that Yishai debated on social media, and he has a humongous Twitter following today. That's something that is so important to also realize, that the voices who are speaking on both sides of the issues pertaining to Israel's future and security, they're still both really loud. And already from 10 years ago, the wars that we were fighting, we're still fighting today. And our voices, thank God, have become louder and clearer as we're all learning the sobering lessons of October 7th. But the voice of our enemy is not silenced, not by a long shot. Even despite all the horrific atrocities and the injustices that they've done and all the realizations that we've come to, they have become more and more powerful. So it is very important for you to see debates like this and to understand that the narrative war is still on. I think you are really going to enjoy this debate. I think you're going to learn a lot, and it's really, really eye-opening. So stay tuned.
My colleague on the other side of this country is talking about a union between Fatah and Hamas. That's the union of the corrupt and the terrorist, okay? When I speak, a cab driver that I just took to this offices, to these studios here in Jerusalem, when I asked him about Fatah, he said, Fatah, these are the corrupt takers of the money that's going to milk and schools and the hospitals of our areas, of places like Ramallah. Hamas, these people subject their whole population to horrible war, take every penny that the international community has given them and turn it into terror tunnels. My colleague on the other side of this line wants to tell the world that no, there's never been any attacks on Israeli civilians. I mean, that is a bold-faced lie from a corrupt organization that we know takes the money of average Palestinians and Arabs, takes it to their pockets. I'm sure that he's in America right now, when he was in Harvard just now, getting it on the, the money, the backs of the average Palestinian in the streets that's being taken away from him, and the average mother with the milk, okay? Israel is attacking back, is firing back at people who rocket at us. Sadly, in front of those fighters are children that Hamas places. It is an abominable thing, and it breaks our heart. But on the other hand, Israel will always fire back at those that fire at it. We will remain strong in this area.
All right. I want to get back to the issue of what sort of a ceasefire and a lasting peace may or may not come from this, Yishai, because unfortunately, when it comes to ceasefire talks, we've been down this road before, and the position from the Palestinians is that any sort of a ceasefire or any sort of a lasting peace has to address this issue of the continued blockade of Palestinians in Gaza, a blockade that's gone on for at least 7 years now, an economic blockade by sea, by air, and by land, and that in order to address any peace has to address this fundamental long-term issue rather than just an agreement to stop firing at each other.
Absolutely, Hazem, and the answer is very simple. When you look at that blockade, partially it's from Israel, no doubt about it. But there's another party to that blockade, and that's Egypt, because they fear Hamas, i.e. Muslim Brotherhood, just as much as Israel does. That's why Egyptians, who are Arabs, have blocked out Hamas's transients through the Sinai and through those tunnels. They are afraid of their terrorism. We have a very unusual union right now here in the Middle East. We have a coalition of Egypt, Israel, Saudi Arabia, maybe Jordan. I mean, this representative that you have on from Fatah, he's talking about Palestinian rights and Arabs being hurt. The fact of the matter is that the Arab world is deathly afraid of the jihad mentality that people like the Hamas bring, and they're the ones that are part of that blockade. You want to lift that blockade? Talk to Arab brothers and sisters, ask them why there's a blockade on Gaza, and they'll tell you it's because of the jihad that we don't want to infect our beautiful Egypt or our Jordan or our Saudi Arabia. We want a normal life, a little bit more like Israel, and the folks from Fatah and Hamas are not going to give us that. They're going to give us more jihad, more destruction, and in the case of your guest, more corruption.
Husam Zumlot.
What a nonsense that was uttered by your Israeli guest here. Okay, let's go with this argument. Do we have tunnels and do we have rockets here in the West Bank? Do we have in the West Bank Hamas in control? Did we have Hamas to start with 20 years ago? This has been a trajectory. We have nothing in the West Bank. We have Mahmoud Abbas, the Palestinian president, who has offered Israel repeatedly for 20 years an opportunity after another, and yet the Israeli government always choose its very strategic path, and the strategic path is very clear to us. Forget about all spin, all this nonsense, and we will come to it. The Israeli venom that is coming out now about our civilians and about our resistance and about the situation. Put it aside. I'm not going to even waste my time to engage in it. I want to address your viewers with the reality. The reality is Israel has decided to block the emergence of a Palestinian state. Some of them rhetorically talk about two-state solution, but in reality, on the ground, block it. How they block it? By ensuring that first, Gaza and the West Bank are disconnected, severing Gaza, sending it to the sea, to Egypt, to the laps of Egypt, anywhere. Just the biggest open prison, a standalone entity. So long as it's besieged in silence, can be slain and killed in silence, Gaza can survive. But the moment if Gaza stands for its rights, Gaza stands for its honor and land, Gaza will be slain. This is number one, because they know there will be no Palestinian state without Gaza, and there will be no state in Gaza as well. So that's number one. Number two, they have to keep the status quo of disunity, of separation between the Palestinians in the geographic and political sense. And that's Hazem exactly why Netanyahu did this coup d'etat against our unity government since started from Hebron. By the way, the attacks did not start in Gaza or on Hamas, started on us here in the West Bank, in Hebron, Jerusalem, and everywhere, as you have reported. This blocking of the Palestinian state is for the ideological project in the heads of this current right-wing government in Israel. And I'm not saying it's Netanyahu. You know, Netanyahu even sounds like a dog next to his ministers.
Okay,
and
all right, you've made your point on that, Husam. I want to get Yishai's view, and I want to.
The last sentence. They want to build the bigger Israel project.
I want to get Yishai's.
They want to build it.
I want to get Yishai's view on what some of what you just said there, and I want to talk, Yishai, about the proportionality of all of this. If, as you believe, Israel wants a peaceful end to this, why do we see this continued bombing of civilian areas in Gaza? And you know, when we look at the numbers of how many Palestinians have been killed, how many areas have been destroyed, compared to what's happened on the other side in Israel, I mean, why should it surprise you the amount of condemnation that has been heaped on Israel?
First thing, it doesn't surprise me, the amount of condemnation, but it also doesn't bother me, because after the Holocaust, the Jewish state Israel is there to defend the Jewish people, and that's our first goal. And if Hamas is going to fire 3,000 rockets, and they're going to try to hit our civilians, we're going to hit them back.
Hardly any of those rockets land. Hardly any of those rockets land in civilian-populated areas in Israel. You know that.
Right. I do know that, Hazem, and I have to take off my journalist hat and put on my rabbi hat for a second. Okay, the cab driver that I was with just now before I got here, he says to me, how is it that 3,000 rockets that Hamas sent have not really hit Israeli populations so much? We have had a few people killed, but mostly it has landed in open areas. And I put on my rabbi hat and I told them, it's min Allah, it's from God. It happens to be that there's 22 Arab countries around here. Allah loves the Arab world. He gives them oil from the ground. But this tiny place Israel and Al-Quds, Jerusalem, is for the Jews. That's from Allah. It's in the Quran. And that's the only way I can explain how 3,000 rockets have hit the desert and have not hit Israel. There's no other way to explain it. It's not the Iron Dome, and it's not because Hamas don't know how to point a rocket. That's the only explanation that you could give. With regarding to Husam, he is so funny because he's talking about this Arab unity. It's so funny. When Fatah was actually in charge of Gaza, Hamas came, put Fatah officials, probably friends of Husam, on rooftops and kicked them off. There's no friendship between these people. He right now wants to represent them because he wants to fight for the Palestinian cause. And with one point do I agree. There is one point that I agree. And here now I'm not going to speak as a representative, and I am not a representative of our government. I do agree that we stand against the Palestinian state. That is 100% true. We do not believe in that. That's been a mistake. Oslo was a mistake. The pullout out of Gaza was a mistake.
No, but you should point out, Yishai, there are many Israelis who would support a Palestinian state. You happen to be one of them that doesn't, and that's fine.
I'm your guest today.
What's wrong with? I mean, if a Palestinian state, a viable Palestinian state next to an Israeli one, leads to lasting peace, why wouldn't you support that?
We haven't seen anything like that. Hazem, we haven't seen anything like that. We have seen only a warlike state next to our state. I support much more Arabs and Palestinians living in our country, Israel, a united country with minorities, Arabs living in it. I think that that's going to work out much better. I don't believe in these divisions. I don't believe in cutting away our ancestral homeland and making a Palestinian war state. I do believe in those Arabs having the right to their houses, to their lives. I believe in them being incorporated in Israel. Right. And if you ask Arabs, right, the statistics show that if you ask Arabs, that's exactly what they prefer. They don't prefer to be under a state that Husam is going to run and reach into their pockets and grab their money or kill their kids or whatever they do over there, or not have any liberty or freedom of speech. Okay, they don't want that. They want freedom, the kind that Israel offers.
I belong to a movement that is one of the greatest. I said it. I was born in the Rafah refugee camp, in the most impoverished situation ever, because of the establishment of your country. Even though my father and grandfather, landlords, owned a huge amount of land, I was born in a tent of the UNRWA, and really, like the entire nation of mine, have invested in ourselves to go all the way to Harvard to teach the Americans, not only to go and learn.
Why is it that Egypt is against? Why is it that Egypt is against your tunnels?
So you need to know.
Why is it that your own countries are against you?
I heard you. Stop these.
Hear your people. It's time for you to hear your people, not to hear me.
Hear
your own people. Every single person tells me the same thing.
No one's going to be heard if we're talking at the same time. Yishai, just let Husam finish his point.
Stop cutting me. Stop cutting me. Stop cutting me. I hold a British nationality. I hold a PhD from the London School of Economics, and I lived in America for long years. Yet I decided to come back here and to live here with my family and 2 children here. This is your problem. It's not about the form of the solution. Your problem is against my very existence. And I tell you, Rabbi, now you bought the hat of a Rabbi. You know, you are not defending Judaism, nor you are defending even Israel. What you are doing now, you are defending Israel's expansion. You are defending Israel's colonialism. You are defending Israel's siege. You are defending Israel's wall. Come and live with us here. Go to Gaza and see the sheer injustice that is happening on a daily basis. Go and sit in these homes in Gaza for 7 years without electricity, without water, without basic. And
you've made your point on that. All right, you've made your point on that, Husam. You've got to calm down. Let's try and let cooler heads prevail here. Let's keep the focus of this discussion back on Gaza, if I can. And I want to put this back. I want to put this to Yishai. The continued shelling of Gaza by Israeli forces has led to, by the last count, at least 1,700 Palestinians killed. On the Israeli side, we have 64 soldiers killed. That is the sort of proportionality that is unfathomable, no matter how you look at it. So if the argument is that Israel is targeting Hamas for continued rocket attacks into Israel, most of which don't even hit populated areas, I mean, how can you continue to justify this?
That is the most ridiculous question I ever heard in my life. Do you think I'm going to argue morality of war with the jihad? Israel, the small
No,
country
I just
that has
want
been
you to
attacked
address.
over and
I
over
just want
again.
you to address the fact that
There's
1,700
nothing to address.
Palestinians have been killed.
It's a war. It's a war, and we lament. And I tell you honestly, you may not believe me, but from the bottom of my heart, I have empathy for the Arabs that are killed, especially the children. It is a disgusting thing. It is a sad thing. It's a fact of life, though. When
And
you
yet it
war
goes
against
on.
Israel, you will get back war. Absolutely, will, and it will go on. If you war against us, we will war back. I tell you again that after the Holocaust, we are a little bit sensitive to the jihadist mentality, and those people that want to destroy the Jewish people in Israel will face our fire.